What's up everybody, Couch Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Halo Infinite video, and this is going to be the last time I talk about this topic because I already know it's gonna be freaking war in the comments. But before you rage, definitely listen to me, hear me out. I think this is a pretty reasonable take for both sides because we're gonna talk about mouse and keyboard and controller in a civilized discussion. Okay, freaking put your pitchforks down, goddammit. But yeah, go to the GameLeap website right now. If you want to improve, we have high quality in-depth guides that's gonna help you regardless of what input you use. We have in-depth advanced tips and tricks, map guides, weapon courses, and everything you need to take Halo Infinite to the next level. We have over 30 guides right now and we add more daily, so you gotta go check it out right now down below. Now, before we get started, I want to preface this with several things. One, we did a poll, and the majority of people on this channel are using controller at nearly 70%. That's the first thing. And the second thing, based on your advice, I am in the progress of buying a controller, and the overwhelming suggestion has been the Elite 2 controller. And if you agree, let me know down below. And if you disagree, make sure to tell me so I don't buy a really bad controller. Now, this topic all got reignited when Snipedown, who needs no introduction, one of the best Halo pros in the entire game, just signed to FaZe. And yeah, I mean, he just has like more accolades in Halo than anyone, and he's like one of the best controller Halo players of all time. He had some interesting things to say about mouse and keyboard versus controller, so let's roll it right here.
Yeah, every pro plays PC with controller, man. It's not going to change for anytime soon. They would actually need to nerf aim assist to make it fair, but the problem, so Halo knew that there weren't going to be any mouse and keyboard pros, okay? But they did what they needed to do, and they made it so mouse and keyboard has their own playlist to where they can play only mouse and keyboard players to keep them entertained and keep them involved in the game without them wanting to quit because they get dominated by controller players all the time. You can't nerf aim assist hard because it will make all the average and below average players in this game suck to the point where they don't want to play, and they are your majority of player base. So nothing's gonna happen there. That's just dev talk. But you're gonna have mouse and keyboard players non-stop complaining about how controller dominates comp. It's like, well, what are you gonna do about it? Like, what do you expect when the game has been controller dominated for so long? Like, and it doesn't matter if someone's good at mouse and keyboard, they will not be better than pro players ever, in my opinion. Because I would love to be proved wrong on this, but it's not. I just don't see any PC players ever becoming professional in this game.
Now, it's very interesting. Snipedown has several big takes here. He says, one, mouse and keyboard players will never be competitive from a high level point of view. Two, they did what they needed to do with balance as far as allowing mouse and keyboards to have their own separate mode so that they stay interested in the game. And three, you could never nerf aim assist because it would make anyone feel very poor that is not in the highest of the highest esport level tier of play. Now, the first thing that I want to preface this is that from a casual perspective or even a ranked perspective, just like playing ranked, I think that the system is okay, right? Mouse and keyboards get their own queue and you can play and thrive in that. And you can definitely play in the crossplay mode, and you could still get to Onyx as a mouse and keyboard player or even climb through it like I have. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to slap the highest of the highs, but you're not an absolute dog if you're good enough on mouse and keyboard. But when we talk about from an esports perspective, which is really what I want to shift this conversation to, because when we talk about like the ranked and the casual, that is perfectly fine. It's fine the way it is. But from an esports perspective, if possible, it would be in the best interest of everyone if there were some amount of mouse and keyboard players that could compete in Halo. Now, I'm going to be swapping over to controller regardless, but many of you controller players are wondering, why does it matter if mouse and keyboard players are included in the esports? This is a Halo game. It's always been controller, so keep it controller. And while I understand that sentiment, there is something that you need to consider, which is the audience size of the game. Well, yes, there's a very large amount of players that play on controller. It would be even better if you could reach the maximum audience size, and from a grinding the path to pro perspective or an esports perspective, there is a lot of talent that just is never going to be interested in Halo because it's really a game tailored specifically to a controller. Right now, we're in a situation that if you want to be an esports level player, you either have to do what I'm doing and swap over to a controller, or that reality is just not in the cards for you. And me personally, I think it's just cooler, right? Cross mix and pro play, like, I'm not saying that mouse and keyboard should even have like 30% of the players, but wouldn't it be really cool if there was like a mix where like teams had 3 controllers and 1 mouse and keyboard player, player, or maybe there was one controller only team and one PC only team and they went up together, and then you could have like both sides cheering for whatever platform or whatever, you know, input they use. I just think it would be cool, okay? I think it would be cool if it's possible to put mouse and keyboard players and controller players together in esports. I think that would be incredibly exciting. But based on everything these pro players are saying, like Snipdown and all the pro players existing currently, it's just looking like it's less and less likely to be the case. Now, this leads me directly to my second point in the video, which is very important, and it's the fact that aim assist cannot be touched. You cannot touch aim assist. And I know mouse and keyboard players are gonna be like, what the hell? Why are you not on our side? Tell them to get rid of it, whatever. The reality is, just like Snipdown says, it would make the vast majority of people, especially like the majority of people don't even play ranked, it would make it feel completely terrible for them if you ever nerfed aim assist, especially when a lot of console players specifically say the aim assist is lower in Halo Infinite than it has been in games in the past, and I'm likely to concur. Basically, for a lot of players, the game would just feel absolutely terrible. And remember, the only reason that we would want to do this in the first place is to make the game more inclusive, but if you just get rid of all the console players or the controller players because the game just feels completely different and they don't like it anymore, then you just miss out on the entire point of trying to get the maximum amount of players interested in the esport and the audience to grow as big as possible, because I think most people want Halo to be at the top of esports and the biggest possible esport, capable of grabbing people from every single audience and every single input. Add to that the legacy of Halo, add to that the fact that people are already used to the way that the game is in its current state, and if they wanted to do anything about this, they should have done it pre-launch. It's just far too late. You just can't change aim assist at all, and that should just be completely removed from the table. It's not gonna happen. So then the question comes along, okay, if you cannot touch aim assist and there are no mouse and keyboard players at the highest level, is there any way to kind of empower mouse and keyboard players or do something that doesn't affect aim assist or hurt controller players, but still allows some amount of mouse and keyboard players to thrive? And there are some ways hypothetically, but they're not perfect solutions. The first one is something that Splitgate did, which is a headshot multiplier. Splitgate did this before, where they added a headshot multiplier into the game instead of like Halo is currently, where until the shields are broken, headshots do nothing. And it allowed mouse and keyboard players to leverage especially specific flicks and crosshair placement and time to kill, while controller users were more consistent in that mid fight, and it kind of balanced it out. And there was actually a pretty healthy community of both mouse and keyboard players and controller players, even in ranked play for Splitgate. But here's the downside. It changes Halo fundamentally. And if Halo Infinite actually cared, or if 343 actually cared about this, they would have already implemented this before. And the fact that it's not in means it's probably not likely going to be in, because everyone's just going to be completely shocked, where a lot of people just learned that headshots didn't matter, and now you're going to tell them that it does again. It's just a very interesting solution, and I really like it, but it's unrealistic for it to happen. Now, the next thing would be like introducing new guns that require a specific amount of precision or something like that for mouse and keyboard. But honestly, I can't really imagine how you would design that apart from some of the weapons that are already in the game that require like fast flicking. Something like a Mangler can reward you from being able to 180 fast, which you can't do on controller. But realistically, it's still not enough. And I mean, I just can't imagine this being a good solution. And then the last one, which I hear thrown around all the time, which is like add aim assist to mouse and keyboard, even if it's like a much smaller amount. I feel like this is like, I mean, it might work, but it just would probably feel completely weird to mouse and keyboard players, and they wouldn't even want to be near it, and it probably wouldn't fix the problem at all. If I'm gonna be frankly honest, there's not a solution here. It's looking like this is exactly how the game is gonna be, and if you want to compete, if you want to grind the path to pro, if you want to be someone that is playing at the top of the competition pool, not just for mouse and keyboard, but around the world with controllers included, you gotta buy a controller yourself. That's just as simple as it is. Now, at some later point, maybe 343 will be more transparent about any changes they're trying to do, or even if they care, or what's the reality of the situation. I have no idea if they're gonna analyze statistics and decide, hey, maybe we should change some balancing around to allow some amount of PC players to enter the pro scene. But in reality, I don't think that that's likely. In reality, I think that if you want to take the game seriously, you probably should buy a controller, just like I am. But who knows, maybe Snipdown will end up being wrong, and there will be a very small amount of Halo Infinite players on mouse and keyboard actually make their way into the pro scene. And if that happens, I would be very excited, even if it's just like, you know, one person out of 1,000. It still would be kind of cool. But I definitely want to know what you think about this down below. Do you overwhelmingly disagree with Snipdown, or do you all in all agree? And for you mouse and keyboard users, how likely are you to just buy a controller and move over? Or are you just someone who who doesn't really care about being at like that top 1 or that top 1%, and you're gonna still try to compete and dominate the Onyx rank with your mouse and keyboard. I want to hear everything you have to say down below, and go to the GameLeap website right now for those of you who really want to improve from the strategic side, breakdowns of maps, weapons, and the decision making of top tier pro Halo Infinite players. We have fully edited guides on the GameLeap website you got to go check out right now down below. If you want to dramatically improve, go check it out. You can kind of peer inside some top level players. But thank you so much for coming by. I hope you enjoyed the video. I love your faces, and I'll see you next time.